Hi everyone, welcome to Stars and Pearls. I'm so happy that you found your way here. I hope you click like, subscribe, and share, and that you drop a comment in the comment section below. And you let me know how this topic, this video rolls for you. So let's dive in. But before I do that, don't forget that I offer personal readings as well. And I'm so happy to work with you, more than happy to work with you on your personal pathway, on things that may or may come through for you, ideal timelines, ideal moments, and ideal decisions. So check it out in the description box below. You'll find many ways to contact me, and I can't wait to hear from you. All right, so let's dive into today's topic, and it's on the rise of the right wing. Now, there are several angles on this topic, and I'll try to be cohesive. I didn't take any notes. I tried to write down notes, but all those notes turned into novels, and I just thought, you know what? I know what I want to say, so I'm just going to say it. And obviously, this is an opinion piece, a little bit, an observational piece, a feeling into the winds of change and the flow of time piece, and where the novelty on my channel is that it's not just political commentary or cultural commentary. We're also looking with the tarot into what's behind the scenes, what's in the energies of the day, what are the energies that are influencing these things to come about and to happen, and where will they possibly take us? So with the right-wing energy that is popping up, and I noticed it because I moved through several countries just recently, and I just noticed a trend in all of them. And it may or may not tie in that 2024 is an election year. If we look through the countries that are having elections this year, it's a long list of them. And every time we get into election season, things get a little bit more nationalistic. They have been getting more and more nationalistic over time the last couple of years. There has been a kind of a pullback in energy when it came to digital nomadism and global lifestyle. People haven't really spoken about it, but it's there. The decisions are a little bit different as they used to be. People are still traveling, but they seem to be more focusing now or shifting now or being sold now on slow travel, which means going and staying somewhere for a long time, but still having your roots in a home country. And this, of course, is it's completely different, a different vibe and energy as to 2019. So I've been noticing that in the countries that I move through, pass through, that there has been an underlying tendency towards more pride in your own culture, pride in who the country that you're in and that you're coming from, an attachment to the country again. And the topic is most on the table, I openly on the table in the country that I'm in now, which brought it to mind and made me stop and think what's going on, what's happening. And so as I dove into it, I found out certain things. I noticed small correlations, and I know there are a couple of you that are going to say, no, Carlene, you're totally off. This is a completely different time in history. And that is true. We are at a time in history where we've never been before. We've never been before with the situation as it is now. The layout, the board, the chessboard that we're all sitting on, it's never been like this. There are certain things that we're facing that our ancestors didn't have to face. But one thing that did come up, or one time in history that did pop up for me, and possibly because I'm here, is the timeline just before the Third Reich, right before that time in history happened. And many people don't really talk about it. Some people know, some people don't. It might be news to you, it might be not. But the time before that was a very liberal time in Central Europe. And it was a time of seances and spiritualism. And it was a time of exploring fluidity and sexual expressions. It was a time of artistry and poetry and social critique. And it got to a point where they lost a lot of people on the way, in addition to an economic downturn. So we're seeing and hearing talk about this economic downturn that we're in now. We're coming through an extreme liberalism, which on the one hand was extremely good, but on the other hand, it pushed us way further into identity politics than many people were able to follow and go down. And what they didn't see is rational. And in a sense, I'm wondering if that pendulum swing, because we know the laws of the universe, and one of the seven laws, right, main laws, has to do with this pendulum that once what swings in one direction will swing back again in the other. I wonder if this pendulum swing was initiated in order to swing back, because swinging back out of extreme liberalism, we fall into extreme not liberalism, like something completely different, where we really move more into a more authoritarian direction. And that is where we're seemingly moving down, because the silent majority, and this is the big problem in most of the countries that I've observed, is that there is a silent majority. Sure, you're going to see people out on the streets, right? You're going to see them demonstrating, you're going to see all kinds of actions being taken. But many people that they feel left behind by extreme left politics. And I have to say that I've always been a left person. Like some of you guys know me for a while, and I was just speaking about that with a friend of mine, where she was saying, you know what, like back in university, I was always a left person. I was always this, defending everyone's rights, so to speak. But with what's been going on in the world, I've been finding myself more in center, and now center is being called right, right? And the far right doesn't even exist anymore. In that sense, the far right has like really unfortunately caught these people just by speaking common sense and sanity. They've become that voice of common sense and sanity. And it's really hard now because they've taken that, they've scooped these people up to include them in their movement. So it's, what is this movement of the right? And is it intentional that the last couple of years there was such a push to the left in order for now the pendulum to swing back and people to crave more authority, sanity, common sense, organization, stability, reality, like just having their feet on the ground, and through that are being pushed into the corner of being right, even though you can't really say that they're right. They're labeled as right, even though they're center, or not at all, right? So it's interesting where this is moving to now. There's a whole new terminology that is coming around, up around this whole new, the people have been calling it transhumanism, but I think it's moved past that, where there's this replacement of, humanity. And there's what some people call live players that are invested in really shifting the structure of our societies, shifting our mindset, shifting our evolution. And for some reason, they have the feeling that they're the ones, since they show up and they take on this role and they want to take on this role in this energy, that they're somehow allowed, they're somehow privy, they're somehow validated, they're somehow in the right to make these decisions for humanity and humankind, and what direction we're supposed to be developing in, how we're supposed to be growing, what we're accepting into our evolutionary pathway, into our own bodies, physicalities, and what we won't. These people are stepping up, and unfortunately, a lot of us are remaining silent for various reasons. Some of us believe that we don't have a voice. Not really, not truly. Some of us believe that our voice doesn't matter. Not really, not truly. Some of us feel that we don't have enough information. We're not experts, so we'll leave it to the experts. But are those people really experts, or are they people that are just stepping in and saying, well, I'm here, so it's going to go my way? So let's have a look with the cards what this rise is, because what I've also been noticing, and I'll post a link to an article in the description box below this video that kind of, for those of you that follow symbology and symbolisms in the matrix, that see certain currents that are happening, I'll post an interesting link, which someone sent to me as well, which I found around this time that it pops up. Really interesting. That correlates especially in the US, this is focused on the US, this rise in nationalistic feelings and the trigger programming that always accompanies this. with migrant topic, which is pretty much everywhere. Migrant topic is everywhere on every country's plate right now. And I read somewhere that these are interesting times that we're living in because this is the largest globally worldwide migrant population move that is on the move ever in recorded history. And that would be over 100 million people that are shifting from states of turmoil, failed states, you name it, trying to make a better or different life for themselves. And of course, we all play a part in this happening, even though many of us don't want to acknowledge and recognize it. Then there are the people that are saying there is such thing as karma, that because you were in our country, we're now in your country. And at which point people nowadays say, well, we had nothing to do with what our ancestors did. At which point the other side says, well, you're living off the profits of it. You're living off the gains of it. So as far as we're concerned, you're still doing it. And it just rolls on from there. But it's come to a point where it's untenable the way it's been politicized and the way people's concerns are not being heard, are not being validated or taken seriously, and decisions are being made over their head, which affect them in the long term and their children without them having a voice towards it. So with them being canceled out if they speak their concerns just for using the wrong phraseology. But we really have to focus on intentions here. Another topic that is coming up in this whole thing is fertility rates and the fertility rates of humanity, and that we are moving towards a time where we're going to have some real problems with our numbers and the system that we're creating, right? So on the one hand, falling numbers is fine if we're moving into an AI system and technological system, which will take care of us, and then we all receive a UBI or what have you, because capitalism and the technology that we're developing and that is coming into play, they're at odds. They don't, it's untenable. They can't carry each other, right? So the other side of this is that as well is that as long as we're in the current system, we still have to have children to maintain this, or numbers, or young people to carry this. So with that falling out, most countries see no other option but the quick fix of allowing migrants in. But once the migrants are in many countries, it takes a long time for them to be able to work, to them to get legalized, and especially for them to become assimilated into the cultures that they are moving into. Obvious problems arise, and I feel that would be in any culture on this planet, not just the cultures where it's happening, predominantly wealthy white countries. So I've seen it, like I said, in other countries as well, where there's a other kind of immigration happening, an influx of wealthy white Northerners into Southern countries where they can live a cheaper lifestyle with the money that they have. And the gentrification that happens there, the rise in rents and food and in everything, as these wealthy people move in and the poorer people are gentrified out, they can't afford their lifestyles there anymore. That's a whole other modern type of colonization. On the one hand, it does uplift the life quality, but on the flip side, it changes the culture, it changes the people, and it brings an energy and an element into things that causes problems. So what's going on? Why are, and another thing is that when it comes to elections, and because we're in this election year, if people don't care about their country, they're not going to care about their elections. They're not going to care about voting. So what's the quickest way to get people to care about elections and to care about voting, to care about their country, is to give them an enemy, is to give them something that is attacking their country from within. Best is from within. And that forces them to take a stand politically on, to the extent that it forces them to take a stand politically, and nothing triggers like the men are taking advantage of the women and children. Nothing triggers like they're taking our homes, they're receiving monies that we are not receiving, and all these things. So in part, I believe it's on purpose, to be honest, that it's happening now And people don't see these rises. Like it's always every election year, whether in the US or elsewhere, that these sentiments almost always become louder as they're politicized. And it just feels like it's being utilized to force people to care, to push them into desiring to be a part of the shaping of their country, but in a way that has already been decided upon now. So, we all believe in these votes, but what we're voting for has already been decided. They just need to push us in the direction of what they've already decided is going to happen. So not only do we manifest for them through focusing in on what they tell us to focus in on, where attention goes, energy grows, and so on and so forth, right? The manifestation cycle begins. So the entire focus of humanity on something, and I've been saying that for years, we manifest for them. They talk and say, oh, a recession is coming. We focus on recession, stop spending money, so on and so forth. The recession comes, right? So it's it's really interesting to see that they're pushing us now into a more authoritarian, into a more dictatorial direction where we're asking for, especially, we're going to be asking for the regularization, the tagging, if you will, of refugees and migrant peoples. And we're going to be asking for specific software or technology to be implemented to be able to tag these people quite literally so that they can, you can track delinquent refugees, you can track criminal refugees, you can track criminal migrants, you're able to throw them out immediately. They won't be able to use 2 or 3 names and come back again using a different name and be washed back into society again. That won't happen because now we've tagged them, right? And so this is going to be a thing. But what people always, always, always forget, and I forget who said that, but was it Solzhenitsyn? But whatever they do to the other, that they sell you as an other, is going to happen to you. And people always forget this. So through them doing this to migrants and refugees, it's going to become okay. It's going to become normalized, natural, and of course, it's going to happen to the entire population as well. So then they're going to be tagging all of us. And it's not, this is not sci-fi, you guys. And they tested with the last 3 years how compliant people are, in the face of clear and present danger to their lives or their loved ones. And it was very clear, very clear what they were able to do and what they were able to continue doing. So is this the only thing that is going to result out of this situation that we have now? No, absolutely not, because it's going to allow us to develop the concept the way they want us to develop it, though, of a one world, right? So because all these problems of refugees, finances, monies, all of this is going to disappear once AI and tech take over all these things like big farming, um, mining, all of these things. It's going to vanish. It's going to vanish, right? And the bigger problem then comes with the useless population, the useless people. How many do we want? How many can we feed? So on and so forth. But it's also leading into a world where capitalism can't exist in the way it exists now, where it makes no sense, where it makes no sense to have the boundaries that we have now. I do believe that they will try to maintain cultures, because cultures are beautiful, and it's going to be that shiny, happy facade of a image. But underneath it all, it makes no sense to have all these boundaries. So these will become jurisdictions more than separate countries or separate in entities and individualities, because they do see the division of the people as the reason why peace can't exist on earth, right? One of the reasons. Now, this doesn't mean that they're friendly to humanity or anything like that. This is just a cold calculation on their part, and they see themselves actually as being the superhumans that are meant to rule, that are meant to dictate, that are meant to seed this new evolutionary cycle of humanity, that are meant to push it forward, because the rest of us are just too dumb to see it, too dumb to even explore it or play with it. And some of them literally despise humanity because they feel that we are faulty, that there is no growth possible with us, that it's not going to happen. So let's have a look with the cards at what this new flush or this new flux, this new movement in that direction is. Who are the main theme players right now? That's the thing as well, is that people forget that, all these grassroots organizations that they love to fund and play in with and get caught up in and think they're doing something, they're funded by certain people. And they don't just fund in one country, they fund in many countries. They fund in Europe, they fund in Asia, they fund in America, of course, of course, right? But they don't just fund one side, they fund the other side too. So this rise in this nationalistic tendencies right at this time in several different countries at the same time. I mean, when we look at Canada, for example, too, that Canada is now, trying to take care of its international students. That's the intention and the impetus. So they've raised the requirements for international students. Their financial savings has to be double what it used to be. And this is going to close the door for many financial international students who are using their entire family's savings to be able to study somewhere where it's going to help them make a better life for themselves. And it's just going to shut the door. So in a way, each country around the world is slowly locking down again, right? It's slowly making it more and more difficult to access its resources. It's diving into this nationalistic tendency, which will go so far because, again, the pendulum swing. But they're thinking that they're going to control the swing back into liberalism further down the line in 10, 20 years or longer, depending how deep we go down this nationalistic authoritarian rabbit hole. But they're going to control the swing back again into liberalism to be able to make a one world, right? Out of whatever remains, because people will be so fed up with this division, separation, non-connection, all of that again. So, what can I say? What can I say? It's interesting to observe because people always politically get caught up in this, and especially the young generations. That's who they're mainly targeting. It's no longer my generation. The generation before me is, they've been written off anyways, doesn't matter. And it's not the generation, the early millennials. They're looking at the late stage millennials through Gen Z, Gen Alpha, right? And that's what they're focusing on. And these youngsters still want to change the world. That's what we do at that age. That is quite normal. And they are being exploited in this desire to um, explore differences, to make a difference, to make a better world, to make a better life. And they are being led down this, because they've had enough time, they, in air quotes, have had enough time now to figure out everything about human psychology, mass psychology, to create certain conditions which allow for the logical choice to be what they want it to be. So let's have a look with the tarot cards and see what this nationalistic rise is all about and where it might lead to, and what it will do. And I'll just switch the camera here. Okay. So let's ask the tarot, and we'll ask the tarot, what is behind this upsurge or this rise in nationalist tendencies? What is behind the rise in this upsurge in nationalist tendencies, please? And we're going to have three aspects, I'm hearing. Three aspects on the rise and the upsurge in nationalist tendencies. Three aspects on the rise and surge in nationalist tendencies globally. So 1, 2, and very close. What's the third aspect of the rise in nationalist tendencies? What's the third aspect? There we go. Okay, the overall energy that I'm getting here is the magician. And the magician has to do with control. It has to do with being able to control everything, control outcomes, control situations, control the development and the evolution of something. So or the control, the making of something. So it really feels like there's this drive or this need to control. And this is part of what's causing this nationalist tendency to rise up again. Another aspect would be the Ten of Cups, emotional happiness. Okay. Controlling happiness, controlling emotions, controlling the feeling of joy, of stability, right? Because on the Rider Waite, we see a family and a couple who are happy standing on a rainbow and all their under a rainbow and all their cups are fulfilled. Their home is in the distance. They feel centered, they feel grounded, they feel happy. So there's this desire to control happiness. It's the desire to control the good things in life, the emotion of feeling stable, feeling happy. It's almost like the belief that physical actions will lead to this emotional, that everything on the outside determines what's on the inside. It's extreme materialism. This is what I'm picking up. Extreme materialism resulting in the desire and the need to control emotional states of being or emotional perceptions, and the belief that manifested thought or manifested actions, outward actions of thought can result or dictate or determine or control these inner states of being. So that's what it's really about, is controlling an inner state of being. Hope that made sense. So I'm just going to put this up here. Okay, controlling the inner state of being. And let's have a look at the first aspect of nationalism. And we've got the King of Pentacles. So the first aspect is the economy. This is something that is definitely playing a role, feeling stable, feeling secure, feeling safe. And I would like to say that there are economic groups that are pushing this nationalist tendency, pushing this nationalist ideology in many different countries. There may be one overarching economic group, but there's some serious economic backing into groups that are furthering nationalist ideals and tendencies. And again, this is a big part of election years, is to get people connected to their nationality again, be invested in their country, be invested in their culture. And especially in cultures that have a lot of different backgrounds, different cultures that are resting on immigration, such as Canada, such as the US, such as the UK, such as France, such as Germany now as well. It is difficult to bring up this real feeling that people had, I want to say, during and post World War II, just after World War II, this feeling of what it means to be an American or what it means to be a certain nationality. Those were the days where, it kind of went down the drain in the 60s, 70s kind of thing, where people weren't really feeling that attached to a national identity anymore. And when you think about how some people used to unalive themselves because they couldn't join the military to go fight in a war. And nowadays, the majority of people are saying, what? Like, it really has to mean something. So I feel like this card is showing us that there's an economic interest or push in getting people to align with specific values that their country is supposed to represent. to align with, an identity around that, which is supposed to give them an alignment with an identity is supposed to give them stability and safety and economic growth. But this, of course, is absolutely untrue. So what else? Then we have the temperance card. And the temperance card is showing that nationalism has to do with balancing out. People feel like the biggest need that they have at this time or this moment is the need for balance, the need to balance something, the need to balance maybe the past and the future, because everything is so uncertain. The angel of time here can switch either way, could like lift up the future to pour into the past, or pour the usual way is pouring the past into the future, and we live in the stream of the now, right? But it feels like this is supposed to karmically balance something out in our timeline, in our line of experience. What else is coming up, please? And we've got the High Priestess. This is something the High Priestess holds on to secrets, yeah? And secrets and making things, allowing things to be unknown or unseen, but possibly experienced, possibly intuited, possibly hinted at. And it just feels like with these two major arcana and the one higher, it feels, it really does feel as there if there's something esoteric behind this, okay? There's something hidden, there's something occulted, there's something esoteric, there's something in the economic groups that are supporting this or pushing this nationalistic agenda and feeling in people. It's a base belief in the nature of the universe and the place of humanity within it. So spiritual, right? There's a spiritual underlying current. There's a spiritual belief and a belief that we can influence the flow of time. We possibly can, if we see this as the angel of time on the temperance card, then there would be a secret around the quality of time, around time. So who knows what they can do with our experience of time at this moment. Maybe they can change timelines. Maybe they can, alter things. And maybe this is a part of altering our timeline, altering what we experience, what we choose, what we go down, what we propagate, what we our entire evolution. So it feels like there's something to do with the higher evolutionary process, obviously, of humanity. If this King of Pentacles represents the capacity of humanity to form and shape its physical world, then the time has come to do so. But it's a secret. There's a secret. There's a secret teaching that is hidden here. Mm, but there's a silent, a quiet group that is influencing the flow of time. That's also what I'm picking up from these three cards. There's a from the High Priestess and the King of Coins. There's a silent economic group or economic or wealthy decision maker, could be both, wealthy decision maker, quiet decision maker, an economic grouping here that can influence our future. Okay, so where's this going, please? Where is this going? And let's just reshuffle. What will the outcome be of the nationalist tendencies worldwide? What will the outcome be, please? What will the outcome be? Will we actually be nationalist? Will we actually, close things down? Will this all win, or what's going to happen? This is what it's about. This is what we shouldn't focus on, what it's not about. The next step. What's the outcome, please? What's the outcome? And what's the advice? Advice. Advice to humanity, the collective. It's the advice. So the overall energy of this here, we've got the Seven of Cups. The Seven of Cups has to do with illusions, right? So an illusionary choice. And this is what I was kind of referring to. It's like we think we have a choice, but we really don't, because everything that's being offered to us is something that is going to take us off our own pathway, is something that isn't real, is something that furthers the illusion of whatever it is that we're living in. And it's time to move away from that. It's time to take the reins into our own hands. It's time to take the wheel. It's time to make a choice on our own and to move away from these illusionary choices. Yeah. And this would be the Eight of Cups energy on a large scale, on a way bigger scale, the Chariot, because after the Seven of Cups, we have the Eight of Cups. On the Seven of Cups, you see on the Rider Waite, you see a man choosing. You see them looking at the choices that he has and realizing that none of them are for him. And so in the Eight of Cups, the desire, the wanting walks away. He loses desire. The Eight of Cups, you'll see a female. This represents usually in the tarot cards the subconscious, wearing a red cloak or a red skirt, which represents desires. So the desire is leaving. The desire is gone for whatever is shown in the Seven of Cups, which are usually worldly obtainment. So you'll see a cup with fame, you'll see a cup with wealth, you'll see a cup with riches and a castle and protection, all these things. Like the illusion is seen through and is moved away from. So here on the collective level, right, the illusion will soon be seen through. People will see through what is being done and how they're being manipulated, and they're going to move away from that. They're going to move away from overtly right-wing nationalist tendencies. So World War II is not going to be repeated. And, we can see it as being also a test. Because a lot of prophets have said that after two wars, there would be a time of peace and then a final war would come. And that final war would be a test, actually, to see if people had learned their lesson from the previous wars. And after that, there would be a golden age forever. Now, astrologically, we know that this is a long time away from a golden age where we're at. And that things are going to be dicey for quite some time until we get to a different programming space. But it could be that we speed up time as well. Who knows? That we change time, speed up time. Who knows? But right now, that's the way it's looking. So these cards are saying, where is it leading to or what's it about? It really is about, here we have the Ace of Wands, a new beginning, a fresh start. And that's what some people are talking about as well, is that it's time to close the doors on the past. It's really time to close everything off, because we still have people and countries and cultures and collectives feuding over things that happened thousands of years ago that are almost unverifiable today, so are basically based in legend. And is still based on these understandings, which aren't really true, are still feuding, right? So we see that here with the Ace of Wands. It's time for a fresh beginning. It's time for a new start. There is a desire for a different world, for a new world to emerge. So what this nationalism is not, it's not about carrying the burdens forward. This is the Ten of Wands, okay? This is not about carrying the burdens forward. It really feels as if this kind of nationalism that is coming up, it's people are going to, if they were trusted with it, which, okay, this is a dangerous statement. So let me be very careful how I phrase this, because it could go either way. Humanity has the capacity to do a lot of good, but also a lot of not good. And with nationalism, we could take it as, if we could finally see ourselves as global citizens, as citizens of the earth, then we could do something completely different with that. That would be a new era of nationalism, if you will, a new era of humanizing, where we just accept one another and all of us accept each other. And not be afraid of eradicating races, or that, because some people are saying, they want us to not exist anymore. They want to unalive us. And it doesn't matter which grouping you go to, everybody feels like the victim. Everybody feels like everything is against them. Nobody wants them to live, and everyone has it out for them. And there are groups, and each group has a certain kind of a point where it's not hard to see how they got that impression, right? But here we see that it can be utilized, if we had compassion and empathy for one another to say, you know what, let's do a new beginning because we all feel this way. I get what you're feeling. I get what you're about. Let's just start over because this is one earth and we're all in it. So a unity consciousness here needs to arise with the Ace of Wands. That's what this is supposed to lead to from a spiritual perspective. It's not supposed to lead into further division and carrying forward petty grievances and old stuff. It's not meant for that. So the outcome is that Three of Wands, there will be a new vision. Okay. A new vision is going to be presented to us. And this is what a lot of people have been saying. And that's also debatable. Yeah. Just because this is the Three of Wands and it says new vision doesn't mean that this is going to be something necessarily super positive for any of us or all of us. It could be that global one world under one world government that we're all speaking of, talking about, the outcome of this is the Queen of Swords. Yeah, it will there is a karmic justice that is coming down the pipes, okay? A karmic justice that is coming down the pipes. And this is going to cause the recognition of new laws, or the passing of new laws, the recognition for the need for new laws to handle certain situations in certain countries around certain topics. That is just and fair. But it's going to lead to further division and arguments. Okay, so this is initially what's coming up. Now, the Five of Swords energy is a quick moving, fast moving energy, so it's not going to stay around for a long time. But it's going to lead to these arguments and debates are going to lead us to formulate a new idea, a new outlook, a new chapter with new regulations and new laws coming out of it. Oh boy. So at the end of the day, the Holy Spirit, it says in A Course in Miracles that you can give anything to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit will take anything and turn it for good. And that's the kind of message I'm seeing here. And this is not to make us complacent, sit back and look and see what's going to happen and how things are going to unfold and play along like it all has nothing to do with us. That's not my intention with this reading. My intention is to have a look at, what are the spiritual sources, the spiritual ramifications of all of this. And it's, as it is with spirituality, it's an opportunity for humanity to do something different. It's an opportunity for humanity to create the utopia it envisions, to create the beauty that it desires. But will humanity take that route? What is the route that humanity is on right now, please? What is the route that humanity is on right now when it comes to nationalist tendencies? And will this nationalist tendency last? Will it last? So the route that we're on right now, and here again, we have the King of Pentacles once again. Okay. The route that we're on right now has been predetermined. That's clearly what this is saying, because this is not the most spontaneous card in the deck. So this is well planned, well organized, and well structured. This is the King of Pentacles. So the route that humanity is right on track with some grouping or entities' plans. An explanation card is destiny or the Wheel of Fortune. They have control over the destiny of humanity, over the fortune of humanity. And we can see that here. Now, I know a lot of people, that's another thing I have a real problem with a lot of channelings is that it takes power away from the people because everybody's sitting there and waiting for their savior to show up. And as it so happens in our personal life and in our real life, this rarely happens that, the savior just drops from the sky. Sometimes it does, and then we call them our saving angel, but clearly that's not the program pathway for us to learn to come into more love and compassion for one another on this pathway. And so while I do understand certain channelings that are saying, just sit tight, this savior is coming, or that savior is coming, or that energy is coming to save us, I've never gotten those messages, so I can't see that. What I do see is the opportunity to take the wheel, and it's one of the biggest problems is wealth, right? Wealth and equality, that keeps people back from being able to have control over their own destiny. And so this is something that also will be tackled due to nationalist tendencies where, again, how do we tackle? What do I mean by tackling? Are they going to show up and just suddenly all of a sudden pass laws? No, it's the topics are going to come up on the table. And because the topics are on the table, the deeper underlying issue is going to be revealed. Because the deeper underlying issue is going to be revealed, what has been seen cannot be unseen, and people will have to deal with this. Countries will have to deal with this. Communities will have to deal with this in order to get it healed, get rid of it, so on and so forth. So the final card is a working together, okay? Three of Pentacles. And Three of Pentacles we know has to do with working together so that your talents can be seen, working in a team, in a group. So there is going to be some kind of if we work together, then we're able to change the predetermined by these other entities wheel of destiny or pathway that we're supposed to go down if we work together. I'm going to take that. But for that, we would have to develop a broader sense of nationalism, a broader sense of belonging to this earth rather than to specific countries, communities, races, all of that. How will humanity go about this Three of Pentacles, please? There has to be a message of love. This is the Page of Cups, an offer of love and a willingness to invest in love, a willingness to hear the message, a willingness to um, at least listen to this little page, even though it might not be a huge message of love, there's a little message of love, and people have to be willing to listen to that, to accept that, to hear that, and to pass that on. And what else does humanity need to do in order to work together? We've got the Ace of Pentacles. There has to be a new monetary system. There has to be a new support and basis, right? Economic basis, monetary basis, financial support, resource basis from which to move out from. The old system cannot be carried forward. There has to be a new system that's put into place. So we know that they've been talking about this. And again, I'm not saying that they, in air quotes, whoever they are, but the what some people call, like I said, live players, because everybody else is just NPC. They're actually making the choices and the decisions that affect our cultures, our communities, our evolution, and moving that forward through their input. They've been speaking about this for quite some time, right? That there has to be a new economic system put in place. So that's all part of this rollover that's going to happen at some stage in our future. We know this is coming. And to also brace ourselves for the impact, that's another thing where we have to stick together. We have to feel like we're belonging to a group, to a community, a collective. In other words, we have to become more nationalist again. Let's see, what else do we need to know at this time when it comes to the right wing, the rise of the right wing, please? What else do we need to know at this time? What else do we need to know at this time? What else does humanity need to know at this time? And we've got the Ten of Pentacles, yeah? That We need to work on our abundance issues and our safety and our security issues, our issues with life around safety, security, and abundance. Because when you look outside, there's no such thing as lack. Nature doesn't know lack. That's a concept that we introduced in for the purpose of control, right? And controlling people, controlling resources, controlling money, controlling who had access to money because money is power and so on and so forth. But nature herself doesn't know lack. There is no such thing. There's no off switch. As long as a tree is alive, it's going to produce. As long as, so on and so forth. You look outside, there are tons of leaves on a tree, stars in the sky, sands of grain on a beach. The water even, right? The earth is 70% water, so on and so forth. Like nature doesn't know lack, it only knows abundance, but we humans, we know lack. We've brought that lack concept into this paradise, into this realm, that fear of not having, which nature doesn't have. So here we have the 10 of coins, which is inheritance. We have to have a look at what we're inheriting from and beliefs, mindsets, and change those, but we also have to look at what we're passing on. We have to look at the fair dissemination of money, of resources. We have to look at our system, our economic system. Here we have the ace to the 10 of pentacles. And so those are things we have to do. So whatever this system is, and we equate having money and not unjustly with happiness, joy, health, and wealth, and stability and security, obviously. So we're going to have to look at these structures in our own collective mind around resources and abundance, our abundance issues in the collective level to be ordered to shift all of this. Okay. All right, so let's just have a quick look at the right wing, the high right, the alt right, the super right, the extreme right, the hardcore far right. Are they always going to be a fringe group, or are they becoming more and more mainstream? What's happening? That reminds me as well that a couple of years ago, FBI papers were leaked that the FBI knew that there were super right-wing people in the US police system, and that it was a problem. It showed itself to be a problem, and that they had basically taken over the police, and yet nothing was done on this report. So was it intentional? Obviously it was, right? So where is this going? Why are they bringing up the super right? What's the outcome supposed to be? So we've got here the Nine of Wands. And the Nine of Wands has to do with the stubbornness, the stuckness, and the resistance. So there's some kind of a resistance, yeah, to possibly the way things are going, the way things are developing. Then we have the Lovers card. So there were agreements in place. Some kind of an agreement was made with whom? And then we have the Nine of Pentacles. And again, yeah. So the extreme right, when it comes to the extreme right, it has to do with certain agreements in place with money makers or economic systems that don't want to see these systems change. The Nine of Wands has to do with resistance. They don't want to see the change. They don't want to see the development or evolution of that. They don't want to lose power. So they're making deals with all these fringe groups or fringe communities to in order to maintain their power, in order to maintain their what they feel is their strength and sovereignty. So the extreme right only exists as a kind of, as long as we have the economic system that we have, the economic grouping that we have, that's what it's tied into, to defend and protect in the eyes of people that don't want to see that change, that don't want to see that evolve, that don't want to see that grow out of something. Yeah. What is the outcome? How is that going to continue with the right wing here? What's the outcome, please? And we've got the Seven of Wands. They're going to continue to fight for identity and for strength. They're going to also, because the Lovers card unfortunately also means they enjoy a certain popularity, they're going to continue to amass followers. This is going to continue to grow because People want something that gives them a sense of stability, safety, and someone that protects them, protects their voice, and they might feel heard. Certain types of people, certainly not everybody, in this movement, in this stream. So it's going to continue to defend itself. We've got the 9 and the 7 of wands, which is very stubborn, stuck energy, and highly self-justified, you know? So again, these nationalist tendencies are being triggered right now to force people into elections, to participate, you know, to be invested, to play the game, and to choose between the options that have already been chosen for them that are meant to direct us down a certain flow of evolution that has already been chosen for us by these people who think that they have the right to dictate the evolution of humanity that they feel is better for them than any natural evolution could be, or that any other would choose. And let's see. And the right movement is meant to trigger, is meant to balance out the extreme left possibly that we experience, like I said, but also to trigger further technocratic developments. We've got the Knight of Swords. It will lead to a, I won't call it war, but a skirmish, some kind of a skirmish, Techtelmechtel, you know, like some kind of thing, smaller scale. Yeah, skirmish is on the horizon. Okay, some kind of the US might get involved with something in the Middle East finally, officially. But again, this is affecting our economy. That's another thing. If the US wants to go to war, that's another problem. If the countries are preparing for war, then there has to be a rise in nationalism in order for people to feel connected to the country they're meant to support during wartime or they're meant to fight for during wartime. Okay. So that's another thing is the planning for war. They're planning for war. So they need that nationalism to be on the rise, to be able to sell the war, to be able to conduct the war, and to have people continue to support it. They have to start developing a sense of nationalism now. Yeah. Okay, but it's still a ways. So it's in the planning stages. This is the Seven of Pentacles, which has to do with planning and reflection. And so we see that right on the war card of the Knight of Swords. So yeah, there we have it. Let me stop there. Hey, everybody. So this is a summary on what was just stated on this rise of the right wing and what it could possibly mean. It could possibly be the opposite of the pendulum swinging back, right? After we've gone to the extreme, 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 where even reality under it was crumbling and what was real wasn't real. And but there are also other things that tie in with it. For example, we need to be in a nationalist mindset. If you're someone who's planning for war, thinking about war, seeing war on the horizon or in the future, there has to be a reconnection of the people to their land and their communities and their groups to be able to support that war and support the to provide people for that war, you know. So it's not going to happen if people don't feel connected to their country. It just won't. And so we can see that with for example the US right now as well. So anyways, another thing is that to push us into this global one humanity organized mindset where everything is a little bit more authoritarian, autocratic, organized, everybody's tagged, everybody has their one name from birth to death, and their one identity, so to speak. And it's going to be sold as that, you know, like I said, the migrant crisis was going to be pushed so much that people will be like, oh my God, they're coming in here, not just once, but 2 or 3 times and claiming under 3 different names benefits, and or they're being kicked out as criminals and they're coming back in under another name and so on and so forth. So all that problem would be solved with a very clear chipped identity And that may be something that comes on the table. But once again, what happens to them eventually happens to you. And it all comes back around again. So there are other solutions on the table, but they're not as attractive because they would actually give humanity freedom. And who wants that, right? Because humanity can't be trusted because we're just NPCs and we're low levels and so on and so forth. Don't need to explain that. Just not smart enough, you guys. And then there is also the rise of genuine nationalism, the extreme far right. But that definitely is based in fear, which is based in chaos energy, which can't sustain itself. It eventually always eats itself alive. It's not something that's built to last. It's something that meant to showcase, be a mirror of current flux in society, where society's at in that sense. And what else was I going to say? There's so much to say to this topic that I just, I should do, I probably will do more videos on it as we move through this experience, because we are shifting out of and I mean, like I said in part one, I used to be far, like really left because, that was back in the day, this was what you were fighting for, was freedom and equality and moving out of the stuck traditional way of going about things and seeing things. But the further left we went, they lost me, and I'm not the only person that they lost and left behind. And so I drift towards center, and but the same goes on the right side. We're now moving, the pendulum is moving back into the extreme right. So, what else came up? So if people, oh yeah, if people want to go to war, they'll need that nationalism. To tackle the fertility issue, they'll need nationalism. To tackle the migrant issue that they themselves created, that's a whole other video and topic. But this huge migrant stream that is happening right now, it didn't just pop out of nowhere. It was created. So, but nationalism is needed to tackle that. So all the issues that are coming up, they're using nationalism as the answer. And even if they're fighting it, don't believe them. Don't buy into it. Even if they seem to be fighting it, don't buy into it, because that's what's being pushed. That's what is offered as an option for people to choose, that are feeling unheard, disconnected, all the woes of our society, is to follow that movement, because being a nationalist is going to, fighting for your country, fighting for your race, fighting for your community, fighting for your survival. And this will guarantee your survival. And of course, it's not true, but that's for you to find out once it's all over and you're stuck with a mess, just like they found out in World War II, right? So, what else? I think that's it. I think I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to go on and on and on. So I'll cut the ramble here. And I hope that this gives you food for thought, possible food for conversation. Excited to read your comments in the description box below, how you feel about this, how you see this. Don't believe everything you read, see, and hear. Obviously, you guys know this. And think about things. Why am I here? Why am I thinking about this? Why am I getting this information? What am I meant to do with it? And see what comes up for you. Mwah. Wishing you all the best. And I'm more than happy to work with you on your own personal pathway as well, your own personal choices. Like I said before, just reach out. All my contact info is in the description box below this video. Take care. Thanks for listening. Bye.